It has been crazy watching what has happened with CNN over the past several weeks, several months. Okay, first off, gosh, I don't even know where to start with this. So, CNN is now owned, or majority owned, I believe, by a company called Discovery or Discover. And the CEO of that company said, and I believe I covered this in an episode a while back, but he said something like, we're going to bring real journalism back to CNN, essentially making a dig at the current journalists there, saying that there's going to be some big changes. And Jeff Zucker, the CEO of CNN, was going to be stepping down from that position sometime next year after the acquisition was completed. Something like that. I know there's something like that going on. However, in the interim, all kinds of stuff has been going on at CNN. So first off, their viewership and ratings have declined by something like 90%, which is just absurd. It's insane. Like, nobody is watching CNN, dude. Nobody. Wild. And they're trying to develop this CNN Plus app that's supposed to be more targeted towards younger, hipper, like millennials or whatever. And they're just having a bunch of the same old boring CNN anchors on there talking about boring stuff. It's just incredible. It's like they do not get it. They do not understand why they're getting the floor mopped with their asses by independent media. However, it was just announced that Jeff Zucker, the CEO of CNN, is stepping down. So this is big, okay? This is big. And it happened because basically it was discovered during the, I guess you would call it, discovery period with Chris Cuomo's attorney and the whole mess surrounding that, where Chris Cuomo is pursuing legal action against CNN after they let him go over all the issues with his brother, where he was assisting him in ways he shouldn't have, I guess, with his sexual assault allegations. Anyway, big mess. But apparently they exposed this information, or at least delivered an ultimatum to Zucker that he had to come out with this, that he, Jeff Zucker, is in a relationship with another executive over at CNN, and he's supposed to report it, but he didn't. So that's like the whole big deal. Apparently, his open letter that he wrote regarding his resignation was that he's in this consensual relationship with a fellow, I believe she's a VP, an executive VP or something like that. And her name is, I think I wrote it down here, Allison Gullust. I may not be pronouncing that last name correctly, but her name is Allison Gullust. They're both divorced, I think. And so there's no like affair or anything resembling that, but it's a relationship in the workplace and he didn't report it. So to me, I was like, okay, well, that's not really a big deal. He's resigning over that. He's stepping down over that. It seems a little fishy. But when you dig a little more, and this gets pretty interesting, Allison Gullust, again, if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, was actually the communications director for Governor Andrew Cuomo previously. Okay. So more just like CNN Cuomo interlocking, interweaving weirdness. All right. So she was the communications director for Governor Cuomo, probably before he was Governor Cuomo. I don't know if he was governor at that point, but she was that position for Andrew Cuomo, then came over to CNN under Zucker. And apparently Zucker got her the job there because they were having a romantic whatever. But of course, when you look at the fact that she's a former employee of Andrew Cuomo and Jeff Zucker is her whatever significant other, and Andrew Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, was using CNN resources to help his brother in the sexual assault accusations. I'm sure his former communications director, who also was in a VP position over at CNN, had a role to play in that as well, helping out her former boss, Andrew Cuomo. So you guys got to remember, one thing that Jeff Zucker said was that he was not aware that Chris Cuomo was using CNN resources essentially to help his brother. Now, obviously, if his significant other, Allison Gullist or whatever, is Cuomo's former employee, and she knows about the fact that Chris Cuomo is using CNN resources to help his brother, then of course Jeff Zucker knew about it. So that's, I think, a little more getting at why he's stepping down, probably to mitigate any further damage getting wrapped up in this whole Cuomo disaster. So just to recap really quick here, I mean, it's been pretty phenomenal to behold over these past however many months. You got to take it pretty far back, guys. But Jeff Toobin was kind of the first one. And you remember he's a CNN guy. I think he's like an attorney or something like that that does correspondence for CNN. But he was caught whacking off on a Zoom call back when everybody was doing everything through Zoom earlier in the pandemic. And he was only suspended and he got to come back. I believe he's currently at CNN again, which is just insane. So it started with him whacking off on a Zoom call. Next, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, implicated in all these sexual assault allegations, doing all this raunchy, weird, gross stuff, just a horrible pig of a man, okay? And then his brother, Chris Cuomo, sexually assaulting his former boss, right? Smacking her on the butt in front of her husband, and then helping his brother out using his CNN resources to try and get around his sexual assault allegations. So whacking off, sexual assault, and then there was another producer over at CNN, I can't remember his name, but he was caught with, I think, like a bunch of child porn, and he had to leave. And now we just had Jeff Zucker, who's stepping down for issues dealing with a relationship that he's having with a coworker. I mean, how can you have so much sexual misconduct within one company, especially one company that ironically claims to be this objective bastion of news and truth? And you guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's insane. And it's been wild to watch unfold. And then lastly, of course, you have Don Lemon, who sexually assaulted a bartender by like rubbing his finger on, I think his balls or something, and then rubbing it on the guy's face. That's still pending in court or whatever. So who knows what's going to happen with that? It's just crazy. It's like all the talent over there, quote, talent, I use that term loosely, has been wrapped up in some sort of sexually deviant violation of conduct. It's crazy, wild. And now the CEO is stepping down. So I was listening to Breaking Points earlier with Crystal and Sagar, and Crystal, I believe, was saying that one thing that Jeff Zucker did was like really protect his people, his journalists. He really protected them and insulated them against people maybe on the board or what have you coming after them. So that protection's no longer there. And I'm sure a lot of people are really fearing for their jobs, especially to loop it back to the CEO of Discover or Discovery, I can't remember the name, the company that now is the major parent company of CNN, saying that they're going to get back to real journalism. I mean, CNN could be a completely different enterprise just in a few months at this point. It's wild. Wild and crazy. Crazy world we live in.